that is alive. Don't leave this house today. You won't come back alive.
In the glittering, chaotic heart of Lagos, where ambition was the currency and power the ultimate prize, lived Adetokunbo Adebayo. He wasn't just wealthy. He was a titan, an architect of the city's very skyline as the co-founder of the formidable Apex Legacy Holdings. His life was a meticulously scheduled whirlwind of high-stakes meetings, billionaire contracts, and the relentless, crushing pressure to remain at the apex. On this sun-drenched Tuesday morning, the air already thick with the promise of heat and hustle, he stood before the gilded mirror in his expansive foyer. The space was a monument to wealth, all cool marble and soaring ceilings, but it felt as sterile and silent as a tomb. He was a portrait of modern Nigerian power. The navy of his Tom Ford suit was impeccable, a silent armor against the world. The knot of his silk tie was a perfect, unyielding triangle. His reflection stared back, the eyes tired but the jaw set. His focus was singular, a laser beam cutting through the morning haze. The Dubai deal. It was the culmination of a year's work, the deal that would elevate Apex from a national power to a global force. The faint, rhythmic click-clack of heels on marble announced his wife's descent. Zainab Adebayo moved not like a person, but like an event. She didn't walk down the grand, curving staircase. She made an entrance. Her gold silk robe shimmered under the recessed lighting, catching the sunbeams that pierced the high windows. Her face was a masterpiece of subtle, expensive makeup, and her expression was one of practiced, bored elegance. She paused halfway down, a queen surveying her domain, her gaze falling upon him with the weight of an assessment. "Don't be late for the Owolabi's polo match this evening, darling," she said, her voice a cool, melodic chime that held no warmth. "It's the event of the season. Everyone who matters will be there. The Minister of Finance, the Dangotes, even that new oil baron from Port Harcourt everyone's whispering about. We need to be seen." Ade adjusted a cufflink, his eyes still on his reflection, a man he barely recognized anymore. "I'll try, Zainab. This Dubai deal is critical. Clifford is already waiting." Zainab let out a delicate sigh, a puff of air that was more performance than emotion. "Everything is critical with you, Ade. Just make sure your tailor has that new agbada ready for the match. The silver-threaded one. Image, darling. Image is everything." She glided a few more steps down, her fingers trailing lightly on the polished banister. "Remember what happened last year when the Alakijas saw you in that off-the-rack brioni? The whispers followed us for weeks." She didn't wait for a reply, turning with the fluid grace of a dancer and gliding back up the stairs, the scent of her Chanel No. 5 lingering in the air like a ghost. Their marriage was a well-oiled machine of mutual benefit. He provided the staggering wealth. She curated the impeccable social status that unlocked doors his money couldn't. Love had checked out years ago, leaving only the hollow, echoing obligation of their last name. Ade took a deep, steadying breath, pushing aside the familiar emptiness her presence always left in its wake. He grabbed his sleek Lexus key fob and his phone from the marble console table. His empire was waiting, but as he turned towards the massive, carved mahogany doors, a figure darted from the shadows of the hallway connecting the main house to the staff quarters. It was Chidinma, the young housemaid, no older than 20, Her face, usually serene and unobtrusive, was a mask of such raw, primal terror that it stopped him cold. She threw herself to her knees on the polished floor, the thud of her bones on the marble echoing in the cavernous foyer. Her hands were clasped so tightly her knuckles were white stars against her dark skin. "Sir, please." Her voice was a trembling, desperate whisper. "I'm begging you in the name of God that is alive. Don't leave this house today." Ade's brow furrowed, his ingrained impatience warring with a flicker of genuine concern. This was so out of character for the quiet, efficient girl. "Chidinma, what is this drama? Get up. I have a very important meeting. I can't be late." Tears streamed down her face, her words tumbling out in a frantic, incoherent rush. "I know, sir. I'm so sorry to disturb you, but I had a dream last night. It wasn't like a normal dream, sir. It was so real. I was in it. You were wearing this exact suit, this white shirt with the blue tie. You got into your black Lexus, the one with the license plate Apex 1, and you drove towards the Eco Bridge. I could see it all so clearly." Her voice broke on a sob, a raw, painful sound that was utterly out of place in the sterile opulence of the mansion. "Sir, there was a crash. Terrible, terrible crash. Container truck. The brakes failed. The black Lexus. It was twisted like paper. And the bridge, Eco Bridge, sir. It was broken." She choked on the words, her body shaking. "I could smell the smoke, the burning rubber. I heard the sirens wailing and people shouting your name. Please, sir, I couldn't live with myself if something happened and I didn't warn you. For the sake of your mother's memory, don't go." The click-clack of heels returned, sharper this time. Zainab stood at the top of the stairs again, her arms crossed, her face a mask of cold fury. "Ade, darling, what is all this nonsense?" she called down, her voice dripping with condescension. "Don't tell me you're letting the help dictate your Billionaire schedule because of a bad dream. Since when did we hire a prophetess? Chidinma, get up off the floor this instant before you're out of a job." "Zainab, this isn't the time," Ade said, his eyes still locked on the terrified girl. "It's precisely the time," Zainab snapped, descending the stairs with purpose. "You are Adetokunbo Adebayo. Captains of industry do not cower at home because a maid had indigestion. Get this girl out of the way. You have a legacy to build. Act like it." Ade felt a strange, cold prickle crawl up his spine. It was ridiculous, utterly illogical. A dream. Yet, the raw, unscripted fear in Chidinma's eyes felt more real than the silk of his tie, more substantial than the Billionaire deal waiting for him. He looked from the sobbing girl on the floor to his wife's perfectly manicured contempt. In that moment he saw his life for what it was, a gilded cage. He made a decision that defied all logic, all ambition, all reason. He walked to the center table, his steps deliberate, and placed his keys and phone down with a soft click. He turned away from the door. Facing his wife, his voice was firm, resolute. "I'm not going." Zainab's perfectly painted mouth fell open. You're not what?" I said. "I'm not going," Ade repeated, his voice echoing slightly in the hall. He looked at Chidinma, who was staring up at him in disbelief. "Call Clifford. Tell him I'm working from home today." The meeting is postponed. Zainab stared, speechless for a moment, before letting out a hiss of pure frustration. Unbelievable. You've lost your mind. She spun on her heel and stormed back up the stairs, the sound of her fury echoing long after she was gone. An hour passed in suffocating silence. Ade sat in his study, the unsigned Dubai contracts spread before him, the words blurring. He replayed the scene in his head, the gnawing certainty that he had just committed professional suicide warring with an unshakable sense of relief. He'd called Clifford, who had been furious, spewing threats about spooking the investors. The pressure had been immense. Had he made a colossal mistake? Then his personal phone, the one he'd left on the console table, rang. It was his secretary, Funmi. He answered, his voice tight with apprehension. Hello. Funmi's voice was a frantic, panicked sob. Sir. Oh, thank God, sir. Thank God you picked up. There's been an accident. A terrible accident on the Eco Bridge. Just now. A container truck lost its brakes on the incline. It plowed through a dozen cars. It's a catastrophe. Sir, your car, the Lexus, it was there. Shegwan took it for a wash and to pick up your documents. Sir, it's completely destroyed. We all thought you were in it. The driver, Shegwan. He's in the hospital, unconscious, but alive. Sir, are you there? The phone slipped from Ade's nerveless grasp, clattering onto the marble floor. The exact bridge. The exact car. The world tilted on its axis. The floor seeming to drop away beneath him. The image of Chidinma, on her knees, crying, her face a beacon of desperate sincerity, flashed in his mind, sharp and vivid as a lightning strike. That single event was the loose thread that unraveled everything. Shaken to his very core, Ade began to look closer at the tapestry of his life, his business, his marriage, and saw the rot hiding beneath the golden threads. He started with the company he had built from the ground up with his best friend, Clifford, a man he had loved like a brother, the godfather to a child he and Zainab never had. He went to the office that night, the silence of the skyscraper a stark contrast to its daytime hum. He pulled the financials for the Dubai project, the one Clifford was so eager for him to sign off on. And there it was. Not a glaring error, but something far more sinister. A subtle, insidious pattern of diverted funds, inflated invoices and payments to a shell corporation, ZC Enterprises, registered in the Cayman Islands. A corporation linked to an offshore account he didn't recognize. The betrayal was cold, calculated, and it had been happening for years, a slow, steady bleeding of the empire he'd given his life to. ZC, Zainab and Clifford. The realization hit him like a physical blow. But the rot didn't stop at the office. The next day, Zainab had claimed to be in Ibadan, visiting her supposedly ailing father. A quick, discreet call to a private investigator he kept on retainer for corporate espionage confirmed his deepest, ugliest fear. She was not in Ibadan. She was at the Eco Hotel, room 406, and she was not alone. A thick wad of cash got him a spare keycard from a complicit concierge. He walked down the silent, carpeted hallway, his heart a cold, heavy stone in his chest. Each step was a footfall in the ruins of his life. He didn't knock. He simply swiped the card, pushed open the door, and stepped inside. And there they were, his wife, clad in a silk negligee, and his best friend, his brother, shirtless, a half-empty bottle of champagne on the table beside them. They were laughing, celebrating their victory, their deception, their future built on his ruin. They froze, their laughter dying on their lips, their faces contorting into masks of horror. For a long, stretched moment, nobody moved. The only sound was the faint hum of the air conditioner, a cold, impartial witness to the death of his world. Adetokunbo, Zainab whispered, her voice panicked, snatching a sheet to cover herself. I can explain. Ade's voice, when it came, was dangerously quiet, devoid of all emotion. It was the calm at the center of a hurricane. Don't lie. Not here. Not anymore. He looked at Clifford, the man who had stood beside him at his wedding, the man whose family he had supported, the man who was about to steal his company. Then he looked at Zainab, the woman who had slept beside him every night while plotting his demise, a demise that would have been literal if not for the dream of a humble housemaid. He took one last look, a look that held a universe of pain, betrayal, and a sudden, chilling clarity. Then he gently closed the door behind him, shutting them inside their lie, and walked away. A year of brutal, cleansing silence followed. The divorce was swift and merciless. The buyout of Clifford's shares ruthless. The ensuing scandal was the talk of Lagos, but Ade ignored it. He poured himself into his work, not as a man chasing wealth, but as a man forging a new legacy, one built not on image, but on integrity. The hollow spaces in his life began to fill, not with noise, but with purpose. The scars began to fade. He started smiling again, a real smile that reached his eyes. And then, at a small gallery opening in Ikoyi, love knocked again. Not with the sharp, demanding rap of his past, but with a gentle, patient tap. Her name was Mercy. She was a curator, with eyes that saw the world in color and texture. She didn't care about his last name or his bank balance. She cared about books, art, and the quiet, simple joy of a shared conversation. The grand, empty mansion began to feel like a home. The quiet was no longer empty. It was peaceful. One evening, Chidinma, who had stayed with him through it all, a silent pillar of support, came to him in the study. She was no longer in her maid's uniform, but a simple, elegant dress, a small bag in her hand. "My assignment here is over, sir," she said softly. Ade looked up, shocked and saddened. "Leaving? Why are you leaving, Chidinma? After everything. You're one of the only people who never tried to hurt me." A small, knowing smile touched her lips, a smile that seemed ancient and wise. "I know, but I wasn't sent to stay. I was sent to save." She paused at the door, turning back to him one last time, her gaze clear and profound. "Live right, sir. Trust slowly. Love carefully. And watch everyone. This time with your eyes open." And with that, she opened the front door and stepped out into the evening air, gone as mysteriously as she had entered his life. Adetokunbo Adebayo, the billionaire who had lost everything he thought mattered, finally understood. He hadn't just survived a crash. He had been reborn from the wreckage. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to Wisdom Tales by Cha, like this video, and share it with your friends and family. We'll see you in the next video.
Hello, friends. It's your personal person, Cha. Thank you for watching and for being a part of this family. Please like and subscribe for more wisdom tales. See you in the next video.